Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Music Talks podcast, the show where I do a deep dive into musics and songs from the past and present, and is the number one destination for you to find new music that you're sure to like. Today, I have a very special episode. This is going to be my first podcast interview for Music Talks, and the first guest that I have on is Mr. Michael Masci. He's a professional entertainer, pianist, vocalist, and storyteller whose career has spanned more than 40 years. Michael has performed from New York productions and South Florida's premier country clubs to cruise ships across the world and currently serves as a resident entertainer with American Cruise Lines. And along the way, he's accumulated unforgettable stories from life on stage, connected with legendary entertainers, and witnessed the entertainment industry evolve through every major technological shift. Today, he combines his passion for live performances with TikTok, artificial intelligence, and helping fellow entertainers adapt to the future while never losing the human connection that great entertainment creates. So, I'd like to give a huge welcome to Michael for coming on to the podcast today. Thank you so much for taking time to come on the podcast. I'm looking forward to it. Welcome to Music Talks.
Hey, thank you so much. It's really nice to be with you, Noah.
So I always like to just ask my guests kind of a little overview about them personally and what they do. So just I kind of give my audience just a little overview about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'll make a long story short since we did say I'm in the music business for over 40 years, but I come from a very musical family, both my mom and dad, my sister. We had like a family band for many, many years. But I've been a piano player since the age of 5. I had a good ear, but then I needed to learn how to read as I became a music director for some shows. And so basically, entertainment's been my life. But having said that, I've also become an entrepreneur. My wife and I, we have an entertainment agency where we book entertainers, but we also are in real estate. We do all kinds of things, but been in this business a long time, so I know music pretty well.
So over your career, you've been able to do a lot of a multitude of things with your music career. You've done a lot of different production styles. You've done cruise ships, you've done country clubs, and you've traveled the world. What was it like spending, or what is it like spending more than 40 years making a living as a professional entertainer?
You know, I used to be a really shy kid, and so when I started playing, I wouldn't even look up from the piano. I wouldn't smile. But I've noticed that it's not so much about the music or remembering the lyrics. It's about connecting with people, and that's as I've become older, I realize that it's that human connection that's even more important when it comes to music. You don't have to be the greatest singer or the greatest musician. It's that human connection that seems to me to be the thing that really is good in the business, and that's something that I've learned over the years. um, I didn't have that in the beginning. Like I said, I was very shy. But now, being a resident entertainer with American Cruise Lines, part of my job is to connect with people because I'm on their itinerary for the entire week, and so I get to meet these people, and we literally feel like family by the time their cruises are over. So that I think that human connection is what I've really learned to capitalize on.
So, one of the big things that you've been able to do in your career has actually been you had a very interesting thing with Frank Sinatra. What's the
Oh
story
yeah.
behind him coming back to watch you perform 5 nights in a row?
So I was performing a place in Pompano Beach, Florida. It was called Palmier Country Club, still there. And this was kind of a place that all the celebrities would go to. I met many celebrities there: Mary Tyler Moore, Liza Minnelli, Elizabeth Taylor, so many big stars. But I was performing with my father there. Um, and one day, my father called me and said, "Hey, we have somebody special that's going to be coming in to hear us tonight." I said, "Who?" And he said, "Frank Sinatra." Well, I thought my father was kidding. I didn't believe it. Well, sure enough, that night we noticed that there was one table in the middle of the dining room and everything else was cleared out, security all over the place. And here comes Frank Sinatra, his wife Barbara, and a whole entourage of about 12 people. And they went and had dinner. Great. So my father and I are performing, and as they left, Frank Sinatra gave me a big thumbs up and kind of winked and liked the music. Well, 15 minutes later, him and his buddies, they come downstairs and sat about 6 feet away from me. And I was doing all, my father kept calling Frank Sinatra songs. He says, "Sing Fly Me to the Moon, sing, I Got the World on a String." And I was a nervous wreck. I said, "Sinatra's sitting right there, and you want me to sing these songs for him?" But I did. Um, And so, but literally, Sinatra was performing at Sunrise Music Festival, which was in Fort Lauderdale at the time. And he was going to be there for the entire week. But so before his show, he came in to hear me and my father. When his show was over, my father and I were still playing. He was staying at this property where we were playing. So he would come in after his show and kind of hang out with us. And he did that every single night. It was really, really cool because he was my idol as I was growing up.
Yeah, being able to perform in front of someone like that and, being up on that kind of stage, do you get any kind of nerves about performing in front of like idols like that? Or do you have kind of a controlled thing? How do you manage performing in front of people that are really, really high ups?
That's a really good question. So, yes, but I have to say, yes, I was very nervous performing in front of Sinatra. For me, there was nobody bigger. I mean, that was like I grew up listening to his music. But after I performed for him, and realized that he enjoyed it, I said to myself, if I can perform in front of Frank Sinatra, I can pretty much perform in front of anybody and not be nervous. But I think any entertainer will tell you there's always butterflies before you go on a stage because you want people to enjoy your music, and you always want to be liked basically in this business. So you always want to do a good job and hope that everybody's happy with it. But yeah, no, I after that performance with Sinatra, no more butterflies really, to be honest with you.
So now, mainly what you do now is you've been on cruise ships. How did you land a job being a resident entertainer on a cruise ship?
So I'll briefly say that I started in 2007 with the big cruise ships, whether it was Royal Caribbean or Norwegian Cruise Lines. But a couple years ago, one of my buddies on while we were performing in Hawaii with the Pride of America, Norwegian Cruise Lines, he said, you got to check out American Cruise Lines because they hire resident entertainers, which means you go on board and you kind of like take two or three itineraries with the guests and you perform every night 1 hour. So it's really not a hard job, but it's a fun job. So I started working with American Cruise Lines last summer, and happy to say that my wife and I are now helping book resident entertainers, which is what I do. They reached out to us this past season and asked if we would like to help them book resident entertainers, and we delightedly said absolutely because we know so many entertainers, and that's one of the reasons I'm with you on your show today because I want to let it be known that we do hire professional entertainers that have shows and can perform piano or guitar and sing and have a good personality. But yeah, so I started because the agent that booked me back in '07 kind of knew me from my performances before. So, and asked me if I would be interested. And I said yes. And the rest is history. So I work on cruise ships in the summer, but then I live in Florida with my wife. So you can imagine in the wintertime, it's very busy on land in Florida. So wintertime, Florida, summertime, cruise ships.
What have been some of the funniest or strangest or most basically unforgettable things that you've had happen to you during a live performance or that you've seen?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm embarrassed to say this one, but I'll give you one of the stories that I really don't tell most people, Noah. I mean, you're I really don't say this out there, but I was
Uh-oh.
performing on the Pride of America in Hawaii. I just completed a show where I was doing a combination Billy Joel, Elton John show. I had my whole eight-piece band behind me. We were having a blast. But it was my last night of the cruise, and so it was for all the guests as well. So the curtains closed, cruise directors on the other side of the curtains, I'm backstage, and they were saying their goodnight to everybody. And I just felt this urge that I wanted to go out there and say thank you to the cruise director and thank you to the guests for a wonderful week. So I threw open the curtains and I kind of ran out there. Well, the spotlights were so huge on my face that I couldn't see the steps in front of me, and I dove across the steps and kind of slid across the entire floor right into people's shins. And the
Ooh.
room went silent. It was hilarious. And I just said, I'm okay. The band was cracking up. They're like, what happened to you out there? I said, I just fell into everybody's lap in the audience. That was pretty embarrassing,
Oh man, I can't imagine
right?
having
I
something
mean,
like that, but you seem like you were able to really pull it off well. You kind of went with the flow and kind of was able to make it up.
Yeah, I made it as smooth of a fall as I possibly could. It was crazy.
Lord, I haven't done that. But
See,
I
that's why I
will
didn't want to
say,
share it with you.
well, I can kind of relate it to you. I was visiting one of my friends' um one apartments, I would say like a townhouse, and there his kind of walkway up to his door was kind of like long breaks in like this. It would eventually go down in like a, oh, I don't really, it was like steps, but it was very wide steps. So I was
Right.
walking and I didn't realize that it was actually there was a cutoff. And so I actually it went real far. I didn't fall, but I think he had a Ring doorbell camera
Oh
and
no.
he he could 100% see me probably on the Ring doorbell almost fall and actually
Oh my gosh.
so I was like, no one really saw that, but then I thought he probably saw that on his doorbell camera. So I was like, okay, well, so I kind of can relate to that a little bit.
Yes.
So uh that was I was like, oh, but now what you have really done is you actually, I know that I had said it, you put a lot of your passion into TikTok, and specifically you do TikTok lives. What inspired you to want to use TikTok live as a way for you to bring your music to a wider audience?
Well, I started scrolling through TikTok as I think everybody does, and a lot of older people, for instance, think that it's just young people dancing on TikTok. Well, it's actually grown into a huge audience. I don't even know what the number is, but I would scroll through and I'd see people live performing, whether it was piano or guitar or even a band or whatever. Um,
Mhm.
and I was like, I'm working every night, so if I set up a camera and just go live, why not? Right? So I remember, and it was only a couple years ago I started, and so I would have, I don't know, maybe 5 people in my live stream when I started, but it was nice, and people would send requests, and I would make the people understand. Listen, I've got a paying audience in front of me, but I want to cater to you too. So I'm kind of like doing both, right? Well,
Right.
long story short, I've grown. I don't even know how, but I've grown the live stream to over 16,000 followers, and when I'm performing back in Florida, generally 150 to 200 people are in the live stream, and I love that, because it's wonderful to share the music not only with the people in front of me live, but to be able to be on TikTok. And it's also opened up that monetizing capability, being able to sell product, or or
Mhm.
have subscribers on TikTok. So I really really enjoy it. It's a little tough to do this, the live streaming here on the ships, because as you can imagine, the internet's not so great sometimes when we're sailing. But
Yeah.
I definitely try to live stream at least the cocktail hours, but I don't live stream my shows. That's another situation. So yeah, but that's how it started.
What's really interesting about TikTok too, and this is something I've seen recently as well. There have been a lot of lives where it is people doing performances and singing. I've actually noticed that in the past year and a half that a lot of people are
Hmm.
on there and they're actually using it as a way to sing, get song requests, and of course, they most of them have like a banner that's like 50,000 likes, and I'll sing this song, and
Yeah.
it seems to be kind of what I see all the time. However, I think it's a good way to interact with people, and I think it's a way for you to for people and them to bring their music onto a platform like that. Um, how has live entertainment changed from when you were younger performing to the age of TikTok?
Well, that's a tough question. It has changed because I do think that um, that live streaming really is a popular thing. I don't know. I always think that live entertainment, having bands and people performing in places is always going to be something. I don't think that's ever going to go away. But I just think that I've noticed that there's more, there's alternative ways to share your music. And I'm thankful that TikTok is that way. Facebook and YouTube are great too, but just there's something about TikTok, like you said, about a year ago, we started to see this explosion of artists coming on there and just doing live streams. And it's also a way that during the live streams, the people that are watching, they can also show their appreciation too. They tap the screen for likes, like you said, or they can even
Hmm.
send gifts. And I got to tell you personally, I've noticed with the TikTok live, I've got such a group of loyal fans. If I'm doing a 4 hour performance every night, for instance, in Boca Raton, Florida, they're there every night for the 4 hours. It amazes me. But they, and I try to play their requests. They do send gifts. I do have subscribers, which is wonderful. I'm just grateful to have another opportunity or another way to share the music. That's basically it. It all comes back to that human connection, like I said in the beginning.
One of the things that I've seen too about live performances as well is that, some of these musicians have now gone from, and I'm talking about like high entertainers like Taylor Swift and
Sure.
all these other artists, they used to when they first started performing have like arenas, it's kind of like all the major arenas where you probably would go up to a concert. Now they've kind of switched over to stadiums and football stadiums now, and they use a lot of
Right.
these outdoor things. But I know during the pandemic, it also became a little bit of a challenge trying to come go to a concert now because prices have gone up significantly for tickets and stuff. Have you seen the pandemic be kind of a negative and have a negative impact on how live performances are done now when it comes to touring or just kind of like shows in general now?
Well, I think I obviously there's negatives with what happened with COVID, but I also think that I think that there's a lot of positives because it caused a lot of people to start doing live streaming because you couldn't perform in public. So I think that's the positive thing that came out of it. And of course, with people like that, with Taylor Swift, I mean, she's a different breed. I mean, like she's just on the top of the world with her record sales and her live performances. But if I'm not mistaken, it seems to me like where there was a time that people could sell their albums and make their money that way. Now it's about live performing. So I do think that live performances are still popular, but you're right that ticket prices are really high. Not everybody can go see that. So at least there's that alternative to have some sort of a live stream performance. So that's I think COVID and all that caused people to live stream more personally.
And another thing too about it is, this thing about AI, I've interviewed so many people on all my different podcasts about it, the center of AI, and they've all had different opinions. As a performer, what's kind of your standpoint on artificial intelligence? Do you see it be a kind of a good tool for performers? Do you see it being kind of a threat to performers, or what's kind of your opinion about AI when it comes to music and live entertainment?
Well, in general, I think AI is a good thing. Any new technology can be used in a bad way or a good way. I do think that for recording artists, for instance, let's say the Beatles, I've seen that there's an AI Beatles. Now,
Yeah.
if I'm the Beatles, I'd be upset about it, if they're using my voice and creating new songs that maybe I don't approve of or whatever it is.
Hmm.
But in general, though, I'll give you an example from me personally. So I do different shows while I'm here on the ship. Like, for instance, I do a Billy Joel show. Um, and there's a particular song that I absolutely love. Have you ever heard the song Lullaby by Billy Joel?
Possibly.
It's a great tune. It was on an album from River of Dreams. It came out in '93. It's really just a piano piece. Well, I used to
Mm.
sing it to all my kids. By the way, I've got 8 kids, if you can believe that. But so I used to sing this song to my kids. It's a beautiful tune, but it was just piano. So I used AI. I don't know if you've heard of Suno, for instance. So I
Yep.
played my version of the song into Suno, and I wanted to have some sort of a cinematic orchestral get the tears flowing out of the audience, and it created my own backing track that I could play with. And so I use AI in that way so that I can enhance my shows. I don't use it to sell music, but I do use it to enhance stuff like that. And I think that's for me, that's where the AI is just incredible. So I love it for that reason.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings when it comes to AI within the music industry. It's become so believable. There have actually
Yeah.
been times where I've heard an AI song and I thought it was actually a real person singing it until I did
Yeah.
like research later and I thought, oh, that was fake. And
Well,
I
Noah,
wasn't.
you know new music, right? You're probably really into some new music. So let me ask you a question. Have you heard, are there AI artists that are on the charts right now?
Um, I'm trying to think. There was one that wasn't on Billboard, but it was like on iTunes. Let me
Okay.
see. I have the song actually
It's
added
like
to
a
my
country tune,
library.
right?
Yes, it was a country tune. Um, I think it was like something Borrowed Time, I think was the name of it. Oh, who sang it? I think it was like this is going Living on Borrowed Time. It was from a band, I guess a band called Break and Rust. For the longest time, I thought that was a legitimate song from a legitimate artist. And
Right.
then
And
I
it's
did
all complete. So you'll never see them in concert, right? They're like,
right.
it's just an
And
all AI
so
band.
and so later on, I found out online that it was actually fake, and I thought, wow, I was completely baffled on that. I thought
Yeah.
usually I can tell AI apart and really tell like what's real and what's fake. I thought that actually fooled me for once, and I thought that actually
Yeah.
stumped me. So, but it's stuff like that where I'm like, I don't know. It's a good song. I've added it to my library. So I mean, it
Yeah.
kind of worked, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this kind of plays out going forward if we actually will see like AI songs on the charts or on Billboard or whatnot. But
Yeah.
it'll just be a huge waiting and seeing. Um, to kind of wrap things up, to kind of looking over your career and looking ahead, what are some big things that you are most proud of, or what's something that you look back and you're really appreciative and thankful for?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm appreciative to be married to the greatest woman in the world, and to have our 8 kids, and I'm just about ready. Next week, I'm having my first granddaughter. We're expecting her, little Juliet, and so I'm really proud of my family, mostly, but I'm also I'm happy and proud of our business ethic. Um, you know, we've always tried to do good work and do good by people, and it definitely has paid off because of the opportunities I've had, and I'm so grateful to be with American Cruise Lines too, because as I get older, I know that working 4 hours a night carrying equipment, that's not going to last forever. So working on American Cruise Lines, I come on here, I enjoy like as if I'm a guest on the ship, and I work 1 hour, I perform 1 hour a day. I can do that till the day I die, right? So I'm very grateful to have found them and that they like me. But I have to say that I'm mostly proud of my family and my wife and kids, to be honest with you.
Well, Michael, I appreciate you so much for coming on to the podcast today and sharing your story and just talking for a little bit. I really enjoyed having you on. Um, I don't know. When it comes to like being a music podcast, I've always wanted this, but I don't know how much trouble I'd get in. I don't know if I would have like someone sing something, like if you could share like a song, but I'm like, is that technically copyright or like I don't know how the music thing in podcasts work
I
because I've
don't think
had
that's
some.
a no, I don't think that's an issue. I'm not set up to do that right this second, but I don't think that's an issue because I've heard it on podcasts before.
Okay, because I had a guest that was like wanting to come on and like literally play his music on here, and I thought, I don't know if you're supposed to do
Yeah, you know what I
that.
think it is, Noah? I think if they're playing it live, like on an instrument, that's fine. If they're using a track or like an original tune that's on, on the radio or whatever, then that would be an issue. But if they're playing something live, that should not be an issue.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll have to try to think about that in the future because I've had guests do that, and I thought it would be like a good thing to have them maybe sing something or perform. But I'm like, I don't know how about copyright, and I'm not trying to get my podcast taken down.
No,
So,
I think it's fine. Yeah, I don't think that'd be an issue. And I know that like even on TikTok, people are performing constantly. So I don't see where it would be an issue.
I'll have to think about that in the future. But well,
Yeah.
Michael, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. For people interested, if they live in Florida or if people are worldwide are listening and they would just like to follow you and hear some of your live performances and just keep up with what you have going on, where can they go to learn more information?
So I would say the best way to find everything about me as far as contact and where I'm performing, just go to michaelmasci.com. And it's my last name is Masci. So it's michaelmasci.com. Basically, that takes you to my link tree. It gives you everything. You'll find everything about me there.
And I will put all that in the description box in the show notes below. So feel free just to look down below and find that information. Um, if you're more than welcome to follow the podcast and keep up to date. You can follow me on all the social media platforms. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Music Talks Pod. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcasts. And feel free to also follow the podcast wherever you get your shows from. I'm on all the major platforms. You can go to my website, noahspodcasts.com, to learn more about this show as well as the other podcasts that I do. Thank you so much again to Michael for coming on the podcast today. And thank you all so much for listening. I hope you all enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your day. Be safe, and I will see you in the next episode of Music Talks.